Muisca legends say the lands of Bacatá, now Bogotá, were once ruled by Chipchacum, god of rain and thunder. When angered, he unleashed violent storms, flooding the land and turning Bacatá into a vast lake. Bochica, the messenger god, took pity on the people and struck the rocks with his golden scepter, creating the Tequendama waterfall and draining the waters into wetlands. The Muisca see earth as a nurturing mother, giver of water, fire, air, and soil. But colonization disrupted this harmony. Spanish settlers imposed a patriarchal logic viewing nature as a resource to be dominated. Urban agriculture and construction fragmented the wetlands, harming the ecosystem that once sustained life. Colonial legacies persist today through gentrification in Bogotá's historic center. Tourism-driven development has displaced communities, raised property values, and weakened local ties. Many youth feel disconnected, pressuring families to move. In other areas, this drive for housing has resulted in tall buildings, ruining the natural landscape, as in La Perseverancia, where the sunset can no longer be seen as it is blocked by new buildings. This urban transformation reflects broader injustices. Despite Colombia's 1991 constitution, which guarantees the right to the city and dignity for all, rising inequality and disconnection from nature continue.
To halt this violence, we need to sow memory to harvest resistance and dignified life.
Colombia's constitution recognizes the right to a healthy environment and ecological restoration, yet these rights often remain symbolic, rarely turning into action.
Vital ecosystems in the historic center, such as rivers, once provided potable water and enhanced residents' well-being. Today, they have become wastewaterways.
Cuando éramos niños, pues que cuando en esa época sí era, como te digo, limpio. Ahí salíamos nosotros a jugar y brincamos de aquí para un lado y salíamos al otro lado y nos la pasábamos aquí con todos los amigos del barrio, de pelados.
Still, communities act. La Peña residents cleaned the river on their own initiative, and in La Perseverancia, residents created Ecobarrio, a grassroots initiative for recycling and environmental education. Nearby, trails like Tanques del Silencio tell another story. Though technically gated government property, locals continue to walk them, reclaiming ancestral pathways. Instead of supporting this connection, the state planted invasive species that dries the soil and increases fire risk. Native species are needed to restore balance, but policy hasn't followed through. Some grassroots efforts thrive. In Suba, the Guerreras y Guerreros community garden has composed over 30 tons of waste, built a rainwater system, and created a small circular economy.
La basura no es basura, sino es materia orgánica y energía que podemos transformar para darle un nuevo uso.
For indigenous women facing economic and domestic precarity, the garden offers autonomy, support, and connection through food. To document and scale these practices, we propose using a story map as a tool to support a community network alliance, linking juntas de acción comunal, neighborhood associations, gardens, and cultural groups. The map helps identify local actors, visualize dispersed efforts, and strengthen communication, forming a base for mutual learning and coordination. Steps include identifying local leaders, forming WhatsApp groups, and rotating informal meetups. Policy is key. Inspired by landmark rulings like the Atrato River case, we recommend ensure public access to natural sites and trails, and promote citizen engagement with biocultural traditions. These steps would help recognize places like the hill by Tanques del Silencio as integral to the historic center natural and cultural heritage. But regeneration also requires redistributing power. It means redefining who decides, who leads, and who is heard. Disconnection from nature impacts women and men differently. Feminist leadership is essential to reimagine our relationship with nature and to restore ecological and social systems together. The lavaderos were created in 1936 by Jorge Eliezer Gaitán, then mayor of Bogotá, after witnessing women kneeling by the river to wash. While seen as progressive, it still took up men in power to legitimize women's labor within institutional limits. Decades later, gender imbalance persists. Though men visit the site, it is still women who wash. A male administrator manages the space, illustrating the gap between progressive intent and real gender equity. The state created infrastructure for women, but failed to challenge systematic gender labor or promote shared responsibility. In contrast, grassroots women groups are redefining gender roles and reclaiming agency. In Barrio Belén, Casabés Aisha Círculo de Mujeres created a self-managed safe space for learning and economic empowerment. Through cooking workshops, they turn domestic labor into income, solidarity, and skill sharing. They make Casabé a site of educación popular.
Este es un grupo resistente a lo que pasa, las dinámicas del barrio, a nuestros propios contextos, a seguir construyendo entre nosotras un poco y modificar nuestras posiciones estructurales relacionadas con el patriarcado. Queremos cómo tumbarlo y generar conciencia.
These informal practices, unsupported by the government, reveal a stark contrast. While state systems reproduce outdated roles, communities are developing feminist practices that are practical and transformative. Rooted in peripheral and indigenous feminisms, these practices reflect ideas like Bolivia's half of everything, encouraging shared responsibility and men's involvement in community care. This mirrors pre-colonial Muisca society, where gender roles were different but equal, grounded in reciprocity and collective leadership. Tools like WhatsApp and StoryMap connect women-led groups like Aisha, strengthening feminist practices that challenge traditional power structures. Our strategy prioritizes lived experience over top-down models, building co-leadership and shifting care into a political act. The stories of the Lavaderos and Casa B show that true transformation begins at the margins, where care, resistance, and redefinition take root. Feminist leadership here isn't just symbolic, it's about reshaping how power is shared. To sustain this, intergenerational continuity is key, ensuring that youth carry forward identity, memory, and cultural restoration. In Bogotá's Historic Centre, youth are facing what many call la generación perdida, not physically absent, but socially and culturally disconnected. Despite institutional discourse around inclusion, many young people feel excluded from public life due to the gradual erosion of identity, memory, and community belonging. As these ties weaken, some turn to digital spaces, while physical spaces of intergenerational knowledge sharing continue to fade.
Es difícil por el tema de la tecnología.
El
tema de la tecnología, ahorita uno los lleva a ellos a cualquier actividad y ellos con el celular ahí pegado. Entonces es difícil tratar de transmitirles esa historia a ellos.
This disconnection reflects slow violence, a breakdown of identity, memory, and belonging. While policy responses remain generic, communities are actively responding through educación popular. In Casa B, Tribulaches, and other hubs, children engage in workshops, gardening, and storytelling, sparking change in their families and schools.
Entendemos la educación como un elemento de construcción de un vínculo afectivo y por tanto tratamos de construir comunidad. Esa parte es fundamental también, porque la realidad como tal vez no tengamos que transformarla, sino simplemente construir otra.
Programs like Entornos Escolares Inspiradores foster diálogo de saberes, or knowledge dialogue between youth and elders through art, ritual, and memory.
Y hay una narrativa que viene desde las comunidades y que es digna de ser, primero, conservada, pero también de ser transferida.
At Mutualitos and Mutualitos Farm, kids compost and grow food, then teach their families.
Ellos también ya traen a los papás ya traen, digamos, a personas más grandes y hemos tenido muy buena salida por los niños.
Youth-led initiatives like Anderson Melos Tamales Business and Alchemy Artistic Resistance show that young people are engaged and capable. Institutions must see youth not as problems, but as agents of change. Through school community partnerships, our strategy fosters place-based learning, gardens, murals, memory walks. Youth become co-creators, not recipients, of knowledge. StoryMap amplifies this work, hosting seed exchanges, graffiti tours, and rituals, led by young people. We recommend turning youth-led digital content into official, supported community platforms, aligning with Compass 4040, which is a government policy designed to address youth challenges, and Ethical Guideline 6 of the Ministry of National Education, which is a guidance on the use of technologies in the development of education programs. We propose two policy actions: integrate educación popular into the school curricula, and foster partnerships between schools and grassroots educators. Across these stories, youth are already leading cultural restoration. What's missing isn't ideas. Is consistent support to sustain what's already working. As seen, communities in the historical center resist displacement through connection, memory, and care. We propose two overarching strategies for resilience and placekeeping, grounded in existing local practices and informed by Educación Popular and biocultural approaches. First, Community Network Alliance, a decentralized platform for coordination, learning, and visibility among community leaders, hacks, youth groups, and cultural initiatives. It's not new bureaucracy, but a flexible structure using tools like WhatsApp and a StoryMap to organize events, document actions, and connect neighborhoods. Second, Youth Identity Restoration and Engagement. In partnership with the schools, families, and community spaces, this strategy offers youth hands-on learning in gardening, mapping, storytelling, and memory work. It uses low-cost existing spaces like Casa B, local farms, and schools, where youth already gather. We also recommend policy shifts to reconnect people with nature and embed Educación Popular into formal institutions. These strategies respond to slow violence. This is about more than restoring parks or buildings. It's about recognizing the center as living memory and investing in people, stories, and relationships. Our call to action is clear. Support the Community Network Alliance. Use tools like StoryMap to share community knowledge. Partner with grassroots efforts and make staying possible, economically, culturally, and emotionally. Change means building on what works, strengthening connections, and honoring local leadership so people can stay rooted with dignity and purpose. Like seed keeping, it's about protecting what exists and planting the conditions for future growth.